Hey there, Magical Misfits. Welcome back. Or, if you're new here, congrats on finding your way to the one place on the internet where we calmly and with absolutely zero sarcasm debunk the outlandish claims made by conspiracy enthusiasts who just can't stand a little harmless magic and wizardry. Here, we tackle everything they throw at us. Satan hiding in heavy metal, dark forces lurking in fantasy novels like Harry Potter, and the dangers of playing Dungeons and Dragons. Because rolling dice apparently is a gateway to summoning demons. Today I'm diving into yet another episode of How Many Times Can I Claim to Have Been a Super-Secret Occultist? This time we have someone who allegedly was initiated into the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Fun fact about stretching the truth, the more you retell a story, the more the details evolve over time. A correction here, an embellishment there, just little touch-ups to keep things more believable. Oh, and quick clarification on my last video, someone helpfully pointed out that there are modern revival movements of the original Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. They're right. The original order dissolved in 1903, so Jack's mysterious initiation in a coffee shop with some guy who never mentioned any of this? Suspicious. And as for skipping any outer order training, let's just say any serious magical group isn't letting new recruits jump right into ritual magic after one double shot espresso. That's what we call a big red flag.
What was the religious belief of your parents?
Well, I thought that we were Christians, kind of like you're American, you're just born into it.
Yeah.
And so I went to a Methodist preschool.
The United States isn't here to play favorites with religion. Thanks to the First Amendment, there's no official religion. The Constitution itself, the word God is nowhere to be found. Just a nod to a creator, which, let's be honest, leaves things pretty wide open. Here's what the First Amendment says. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble, and to petition the government for redress of grievances. In short, the United States is a secular nation where we can freely practice, or not practice, whatever beliefs you choose. This isn't just me saying it. The Treaty of Triploi even spells it out. The U.S. doesn't recognize any religion as official. And, by the way, if you were born into a family following Judaism, Islam, or one of the many, many beliefs around the world, guess what? You'd likely grow up practicing that religion. Not because you're American, but because that's how culture and family work.
I just really thought I was special to them, and so I would kind of seek out those experiences. I made my own Ouija boards, really wanting to have more contact with these beings again, which I really thought were my friends.
She was convinced that aliens, or maybe some mysterious spirits, were following her everywhere. I've actually covered this before in Jack's chat with Doreen Virtue. If you're curious, or just need a good story, you can find the link in the description box below. As a bonus, there's a card up there in the top right corner for easy access. Enjoy the ride.
In 8th grade, I was self-harming. I was just really becoming devious. I really was. And when I got to high school, I wanted to fit in with people. I really just kept making other things my idol.
Jack Marino went through some really tough times, and honestly, I'm glad she made it through. But those struggles, they don't have anything to do with New Age or occult involvement.
It makes sense to me that a child as young as 7 would latch on to something that they feel is a power bigger than them, and that is steady and sees them as special.
Wait, are we talking about her relationship with her Lord and Savior here? The way the question was phrased in the interview, it almost sounded like you were suggesting she turned to New Age because it offered a power bigger than her, something steady that made her feel special. But let's be real. You could say the exact same thing about her turning to Christianity.
Being more introduced to these New Age ideologies, I started using now the drugs I was specifically taking to contact these entities. I was getting into psychedelic drugs.
Introduced to New Age beliefs? Let's be real. You sought them out yourself. I don't know which author you're referring to, but if anyone actually suggesting you need psychedelics to reach entities, that's a whole other level of concerning. And if I were a betting person, I'd guess you thought psychedelics would help you connect with, well, whatever entities your imagination came up with. But hey, that's on you, not New Age beliefs. Now, this next bit is news to me. Funny enough, she left it out of her interview with Doreen Virtue from March 13th of 2022. Apparently, she mentions getting into an intimate relationship with a female friend. So, should we expect her to start making the rounds as a converted lesbian next? Stay tuned, I guess.
Started having feelings for me, and that...
this is a girl.
This is a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And just pushing it down. Really just confusion about sexuality.
I mean, there's a lot of data out there that the earlier a child is introduced to sex inappropriately like that, the more likely they are to be confused down the line about sexuality, attractions, lust. I mean, disorder kind of breeds disorder. Sin can breed sin.
Homosexuality is not a sin. Unless you're reading it from a twisted interpretation of your holy text, that's a whole other page. For the rest of us who live in the real world, it's clear that homosexuality has been around for thousands of years and will continue to make waves for thousands more. It's not a fad. About the data you're talking about, I couldn't find it. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack with no haystack in sight. You mentioned child abuse as possible cause for homosexuality or sin. I'd be flabbergasted if any legitimate data backs that claim up. If Jack is a lesbian or bisexual, I hope she finds the strength to be her authentic self. After all, if God makes us in His image, she's already divinely designed just the way she is.
Not everyone knows that book, The Secret. I mean, it's very famous, or maybe infamous.
Infamous. The charged language some of these religious zealots use for anything that doesn't fit their incredibly narrow worldview is always so over the top. It's like if it doesn't align perfectly with their beliefs, it must automatically be evil or depraved. Subtlety clearly isn't the strong suit here.
Packaged in a way that it was palatable for many people. It didn't appear occultic. It didn't appear New Age. It was kind of self-empowerment, and this is great.
Calling it occultic is like calling a fortune cookie ancient wisdom. It's loosely, very loosely, based on Hermetic ideas. It's like if positive thinking drank 3 energy drinks and tried to sell you a lifestyle. Sure, positivity can help, but come on. Nobody needs to glue a smile to their face all day. We're human. We've got moods that fluctuate more than a politician's campaign promises. To me, The Secret is just some common sense principles cranked up to cartoonish levels of simplicity.
Looking back, seeing on the first page now, it says, as above, so below, the emerald tablets of Thoth, who later in my story is the entity that I was following that got me, or that I believed was the entity that I was following that got me deep, deep into the occult. It's pure darkness. And it's just hidden on the front page. But again, it's sold as this very glittery, beautiful girl boss. You can create your own life. Isn't that great?
Oh, you mean the Emerald Tablet by Hermes Trismegistus? Dark? How is it dark? Did they hide this dark secret on page 1, right where anyone with a set of eyes can see it? Sneaky. But wait, girl boss energy. The Secret and the Emerald Tablet are a girl thing now? Well, that's a bummer. I know plenty of guys, myself included, who are going to be heartbroken over this shocking revelation.
The person that you had dated before this that was also in an abusive relationship, he was Native American.
Yes.
And with that, I'm guessing there came, a set of beliefs that he had that also influenced kind of your paganism and your belief in the New Age. Is that right?
Yes.
In her mind, paganism seems to be shorthand for anyone who doesn't follow her exact flavor of religion. Native American beliefs, that's its own thing entirely. New Age, definitely New Age. Paganism is like the world's biggest umbrella, covering a wild variety of beliefs and practices. And yet, somehow, it's all just lumped together in her mind as one mysterious group. Like, come on, it's not a monolith. It's an entire spiritual buffet.
What's amazing is I still would have said I was a Christian, even in high school, through drug abuse, alcohol abuse, living for myself, living in sin. I would have said I was a Christian because I really didn't know what that meant. And if someone said, if someone confronted me, which by God's grace a couple people did, I would have thought, you can't judge my heart. You don't know me.
First off, big kudos to you for overcoming alcohol and drug abuse. Seriously, that's a huge achievement. But here's the thing. You're judging other people's beliefs right now. You didn't know what it was like to be a Christian, but now you're totally sure you've got Native American traditions, New Age beliefs, and even the Golden Dawn's Hermetic practices figured out. Just a tiny bit hypocritical, don't you think?
Ideas that, it's judgmental to not embrace this new Native American idea because they, maybe they were here first, or just starting to think that maybe everything's right. I just need to look at it the right way.
I'll let people dive into their own debates here. Let's think this through. If every belief doesn't work for every group of people, then what's the alternative? Are none of them right? Or, and here's where things get really dicey, is only one belief right? And if only one's right, well, which one? The one with the biggest stick, the most firepower, the one willing to throw down in the name of their religion? Because, let's be honest, history's shown us where that trail of blood leads. And I think we're all a little tired of religious wars. So let's leave the bloodshed in the history books, shall we?
And tell me how you kind of graduated, if that's even the right word, or got into what is the occult. Because the occult and the New Age aren't necessarily the same things, right? If you're able to explain that.
Wow, well done, Alice. Bonus points. Yes, you nailed it. New Age and the occult are not the same thing. Gold star for you. Way to keep us on our toes.
Yeah, I personally would say that the occult is where the New Age roots are. If you follow the New Age, you'll find the occult.
I've seen the movie The Secret, though I skipped the book. Guess I didn't want to read too much into it. The movie's Secret seems to be based on some Hermetic principles, but they took it to such an extreme. They mix in a bit of science and quantum theory suggesting that your thoughts can alter reality, because apparently quarks like to put on a show when someone's watching. Now, I don't claim to be a master of ritual magic, but I think it works more on the magician's own mind than on the external world. Think of it like a mental workout. It's less about changing reality and more about getting your brain to lift heavy thoughts. There are plenty of theories out there, but here's the classic joke. Ask 3 ritual magicians what magic is, and you'll get 4 answers.
Satan had just embedded that twin flame idea in your mind.
Yes.
Wow, that's such bondage.
Yes.
Jack talked earlier about getting tangled up in a relationship with her twin flame. Alice here, who is still living in the medieval peasant life in the 14th century, is convinced that Satan planted a thought in her mind. I guess even the devil can't resist playing mind games. I just hope Jack can escape the studio before they put the thumbscrews on her and try to squeeze out a confession of witchcraft. I mean, it's not like they've got a screwy plan or anything. If she's not careful, they might just iron out the details and slap her in an Iron Maiden for a tight interrogation session. Isn't superstitious belief in evil just a beautiful thing?
This isn't working. By God's grace, when I was in the New Age and at these festivals, there would be Tantra yoga tents and basically like pagan orgy kind of things going on, and the idea that you need to embrace your sexual liberation, sexual freedom.
Right.
Wait, hold up. You're talking basically public orgies? Are you saying that these New Age festivals came with a side of group bonding exercises, asking for a friend? Did these events have a strict no crystals policy? Because honestly, who wants a stray amethyst poking them in the... Well, you get the idea. What's the venue situation? Were these happening at your local street fair next to the kettle corn? Or did they go for something a little more private?
But when the relationship ended, I just thought ultimately I wanted to sear my conscience. I wanted to push it all down and just go in and find where the real power was, because manifesting my reality wasn't working out so well. And so that really looked like me locking myself in the studio apartment, using drugs, spending all of my time researching.
There they are, the 2 magic words, want and power. And here's the thing. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If the only reason you're diving into magic, witchcraft, hermetics, alchemy, or anything in the mystical aisle is just for a little power-up, you're in for a reality check. Pretty soon, you're going to get bored, dust off your hands, and jump to the next shiny thing. Let's break this down. You wanted power because manifesting control wasn't cutting it. Then you threw both out the window because they didn't fit your grand vision. Here's the twist. The common denominator here is, drum roll please, you, Jack. Maybe it's time to reframe what you're really looking for.
Was led to this entity called Thoth and something called the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and I'd strung a clothesline across my studio apartment and painted the words on it, and I was just so obsessed trying to find the secret knowledge and the next key to unlock the powers to the universe.
So let me guess, did you read that in some very mysterious corner of the internet, or was this something you cooked up in the middle of a sleepless 3-day marathon? Jack, I'm truly glad you kicked the meth habit. I've seen my share of tweakers, and let me tell you, when they latch onto an idea, they're like a dog with a bone. It's rarely the thing they're obsessing over that's the issue. It's the mind of an addict at work. Oh, and the 72 hours without sleep definitely doesn't help.
And you said that these entities that you still thought were aliens at this point,
Mm-hmm.
Meth is a hell of a drug.
they wanted to see through your eyes. You felt like they were telling you that?
Yeah.
And did that happen? Like, did you ever have a moment where you felt like, okay, they're in?
Fleeting moments. I think that sometimes, especially in meditative states, I would feel more connected with them in that way. But there was, as I got deeper and deeper into it, I remember looking at my eyes in the mirror, like just meeting my gaze and just my blood running cold with the fear of like, I do not recognize whatever is behind my eyes. That's not me.
I can relate to what she is saying here. Meth addicts can look so inhuman in their disease. And when they finally kick their addiction and you see them again, it is a world of difference. It is like night and day.
But still thinking, I need to go into the darkness and shine the light of knowledge and all these words that I'd learned to feel the fear and do it anyway. So I kept pressing on in that. And
well, yeah, if you're stumbling around in the dark, a flashlight would be the smart move, right? Helps you find the exit. Unless, of course, you're planning to stay in the dark for a while. Your call. But seriously, any reason you were tweaking out over this little phrase? Was it just a case of overthinking in the dark?
Yeah, I started channeling. I would write things like, I'm an alien watching through the eyes of a girl, and just very dark things, really getting more and more depraved as well.
This is a new addition to her story. This and several other revelations were left out of her March 13th, 2022 interview with Doreen Virtue.
Yeah. And then what led you into the occult?
I continued. It's kind of strange, but it was like the next thing would physically glow, because I was so out of my mind. I didn't know what was physical reality and what was just me seeing things, that weren't really there. And so things would glow.
Meth, not even once.
I was walking down the street and I saw a Freemason lodge and that glowed. So that got me more into the Masonic texts, Kabbalistic texts.
And I don't know. I don't really know what Freemason is or what Masonic texts are. So can you give us just a brief explainer? Yeah.
So Freemasonry, I get a lot of pushback when I talk about Freemasonry, because Freemasonry is for men. They do have other orders that I actually reached out to this Freemason lodge. I think they would call themselves more of a fraternity, like a brotherhood. But it is a secret society.
The Freemasons? A secret society? Oh yeah, the most secret society on the planet. So secret you can literally find them in the phone book, on YouTube, probably a few blocks down from your house, or even working in the next cubicle over. That's one super clandestine operation. But hey, you were tweaking out about it, and apparently this lodge was glowing, so please, go on. I'm all ears.
Ultimately, I think that it has a lot to do with idolatry and Gnosticism, but secret society, and when I reached out to them, they recommended me to the Eastern Star, which is their order for women.
This part of her story is new too. She didn't mention Eastern Star before. She must have done some internet research. Glad she's filling those glaring holes in her story.
That also goes into very secret teachings there. But the order that I ended up getting involved in, called the Golden Dawn, was started by 3 Master Masons and brought a lot of Masonic ideas and symbolism, because Freemasonry can be very ritualistic and theatrical.
Freemasonry? Theatrical and ritualistic? Nah.
Also brought in Rosicrucianism, which is another philosophy, kind of it's an esoteric philosophy. So I've heard it said that what Rosicrucians kind of think about or use as a philosophy, the Golden Dawn would practice. And so I ended up being led to the Golden Dawn, which took a lot of, really I ended up being led there because I saw these tarot cards that were glowing.
What kind of meth were you smoking? At least I hope your way of ingestion was by smoking it and not the other way.
And they were ended up being the Thoth tarot deck by a man named Aleister Crowley.
Look at those. Have pity on me. I was so lost. Puppy dog eyes. No, Jack, quite adept occultist in her own right, designed a Thoth tarot deck. Her name was Lady Frida Harris.
And he's known as the most wicked man to have ever lived.
He was given that title by a biased media.
He actually popularized a lot of wicked things here in America.
In America? Oh, come on. To his credit, he popularized a lot of wicked things throughout the world, not just America.
But
Like what?
Well, bringing the occult over here.
Are we really saying he brought the occult to America? By the way, where exactly are you drawing the line for the occult? America had Freemason lodges up and running even before the Civil War. So, are they suddenly not part of the occult in your book? Let's not forget the Theosophical Society was founded in New York City way back in 1875. So, no, I don't think we can point to the so-called wickedest man in the world for corrupting our pure and innocent shores. That ship sailed long before he came along.
Here, but Aleister Crowley's form of magic and was so gross, a lot to do with the belief that sexual fluids have more magical power. So
is this sex magic?
This would be, but he would even take that to the nth degree, including children.
His sexual adventures are well known, and he was bisexual for quote-unquote ritual purposes, but he was not a pedophile.
Very, very awful things that are said about him.
Yes, some very awful things are said about him. Most of them are not true. Unfortunately, he brought this upon himself as his writings were very tongue-in-cheek.
And he brought that here to the United States.
Yeah, at least popularized it.
Yeah.
Popularized it? What are you basing this on? When he visited America in 1913, he wasn't on a book tour.
And I believe he was on the Beatles cover, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and he was very pushed by the music industry at one point. So
appearing as a background character on a Beatles album sounds like a big deal now, but back then, hardly anyone knew who he was. The music industry was laser focused on pushing albums and cashing in, not on fueling occult rumors. Of course, when heavy metal got tangled up in the satanic panic, I'm pretty sure plenty of record labels and bands saw the chance to exploit that hype for, surprise, surprise, selling more albums. Turns out controversy is great for business.
Aleister Crowley, you said that's his name. You saw these tarot cards. Where did you see them?
I was just at a metaphysical shop.
Okay, you saw them. You felt like they started glowing. As you said, you thought that these entities were kind of showing you the direction to go, the things to buy, what to focus on based on glowing.
Meth is one hell of a drug, not even once. Meth can have a serious detrimental effect on the addict. Psychiatric symptoms have been well documented in individuals experiencing MA intoxication. These symptoms, which may vary as a function of individual differences in sensitivity to MA, escalation quantity, and or frequency of use, and routes of MA administration, include anxiety, insomnia, irritability, paranoia, hallucinations, and even delirium.
You you saw the Freemasonry lodge, which was glowing. So you felt like, okay, I got to go that direction. That's how you found the Golden Dawn occult. One thing led to another. And then you found these tarot cards, which you said were tarot cards of Thoth, which was the entity that was at the beginning of that secret book, right?
Yes. It feels like one of those weird, like...
Christ, that right there is the mail. Now let's talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail, please, Mac? I'm dying to talk about the mail with you.
No, yeah, but I'm just making sure that everyone has it kind of mapped because...
Well, I'm sure if we followed all these strings back to their proper source, it would be addiction to methamphetamines.
Yeah, Satan uses these things and pieces them together in kind of like an upside down of...
No, your Zoroastrian-based adversary figure of Satan from the New Testament has nothing to do with any of this. Jack's story, if 100% true, has all the hallmarks of a drug-induced psychosis.
What can be like a beautiful testimony of redemption is also like a testimony
of drug addiction,
of darkness for those that he's trying to lead astray. And so
Christian mythology is weird. Do Christians ever take any responsibility for their actions, or do they just perpetually scapegoat the Satan figure? I guess that is a rhetorical question.
How all of those pieces kind of came together. So you're in this metaphysical shop, you see these tarot cards, you feel like they're glowing. They're created by this very, very evil, pedophilic, sexually predatory.
Aleister Crowley was not a pedophile. He was never charged with abusing children, and there's zero credible evidence to support these claims. Yet, rumors like these keep getting tossed around by people like Jack here, without anyone bothering to check the facts or question the source. Honestly, Crowley should be crowned the most lied about man in history. Or, okay, maybe the second most lied about man. He's definitely up there, though.
So-called magician, Aleister Crowley. You buy the tarot cards?
Yes.
And then what happens from there?
Yeah, I just spent almost all of my time
tweaking out over these cards that were drawn by Lady Frida Harris?
Trying to take the images into my psyche, trying to really take this tarot deck in, and started dreaming about them, started practicing tarot. And
you've got a pretty unique approach to the tarot. I'll give you that. Most people read up on the symbolism to do readings for themselves or others. Some dive into it for meditation, contemplation, or even use the cards as symbols and rituals. But take them in? Can't say I've ever heard that one before. Not totally sure what that means, but hey, to each their mystical own.
From that deck and the Aleister Crowley information is how I learned about the Golden Dawn, really.
This is another addendum to her interview with Doreen Virtue. In her earlier March 13th, 2022 interview, she saw the name Golden Dawn on the tarot deck.
How I got introduced and felt that definitely played a big part in me feeling like this was the next step, was joining this Golden Dawn. And Aleister Crowley was in the Golden Dawn, the original Golden Dawn.
So you know there was an original Golden Dawn. This is a good clarification for your story.
And so I really thought, okay, this is the most wicked man to ever live. I tried to make my own justifications of what is good and what is evil, and trying to say, well, I was going to join the Eastern Star. I have family members that were involved in Freemasonry, and that was one of the things they're involved in. So that sounds good, but their symbol is of an upside down pentagram. So
wow, this just keeps getting better. I'm learning so much about this wild journey of yours. Funny though, you didn't mention those family members in the Eastern Star in Doreen's video. Just so we're clear, that upside down pentagram, it's got nothing to do with your favorite adversarial figure from the New Testament. That connection's more of a modern pop culture remix than anything else.
That's bad, but the Golden Dawn has a cross symbol, at least a cross involved in the symbol, so that must be good. But I kept just...
Interesting.
Yes.
So let me get this straight. Your way of deciding if something is good or evil just depends on the symbols they're rocking. Not like their beliefs, values, or philosophy. Nope, it's all about whether there's a pentagram or a cross in their logo. All right then, I guess we're judging purely on graphic design principles. Does this mean you'd consider all these churches evil too? Just because of their design choices?
Thinking that it took me a while and a lot of back and forth before really reaching out. And There was an order in my area. The original Golden Dawn ended a long time ago, but now there are people who have orders, and I was living in LA at the time that had an order where they practiced the same magical system.
Oh, good. She is further clarifying this. She must have read my comments or seen my video, as she has updated her story to reflect this.
And so reached out to them, and a man asked me to meet him at a coffee shop in Silver Lake. And when we started talking, everything that he was saying to me was exactly what I'd been led to from astrology, Kabbalah, the Egyptian deities, tarot, all these things was exactly what I had been being led to. So it was like, wow, this man's speaking my language. I can actually have a conversation with this person. And I was really excited. And the words like, you were called to this, were used. So it felt like I was about to get in on the secret club that my alien entities, my friends had been preparing me for.
That's all well and good, but I find your story lacking in self-motivation. You see, most people who study ritual magic and witchcraft, or paganism, have a passion that motivates them. It drives them forward. They study and practice because it just feels right. They do not need to join a circle or group to be validated. You seem to have been looking for something you already should have found if this was indeed the right path for you. Obviously, it was not, but that is not the fault of Hermetics or The Secret.
What were some other things that he was saying that resonated with you?
It was really the way that he spoke in a very deep, esoteric way, talking about the great work. I'd been practicing alchemy, which has to do with the great work.
What's the great work?
It's kind of what they call the work of
developing yourself into a better person,
of being in this magical order. You're doing the great work. Alchemy is also called the great work, and it has a lot to do with something called transmuting, where you're taking gross matter and it's being transmuted to gold, but more in your soul allegedly is going from being on this lower level to you go through transmutation until you become basically gold.
Go ahead. We are all adults here. You can spit it out. A better person.
It's like demonic sanctification.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
No, it's not demonic deification. The great work, and I'm placing that in parentheses, can be different for those approaching it. For many of us, it is developing oneself to become greater.
And so it was really exciting for someone to be talking about the things that I so deeply believed was my next step.
It is nice to talk to someone and not have them twist your words and your beliefs into something they are not.
This is the moment that you felt finally all that I've been working toward, that I've been listening to, all of even the drugs that I've been doing, the painting in my apartment, that has led me to this moment. It felt like divine providence.
Yes.
And so what happened from there?
Becoming a meth addict isn't exactly part of the great work. You won't find it in any Hermetic tradition, Kabbalah teachings, or Golden Dawn rituals. I'll say it again, I'm glad she overcame her addiction. That's a huge deal. But let's be real, that has nothing to do with occult practices. In fact, if someone's dealing with mental health issues or substance abuse, they're often turned away from initiation. So, yeah, seeing red flags here. And it's hard not to be a bit skeptical about parts of her story.
I was asked to go to a Freemason lodge to be initiated, and I was so excited. And I remember I was listening to the soundtrack for Phantasmic on the way there because I felt like all the sorcery and the themes in Disney, I finally understood what they meant, and I was going to go live it out for real, though. And
wow.
I truly wasn't afraid. I was just excited, and they had me...
I'm honestly a little curious. What kind of symbolism were you picking up on a Disney Phantasmic show? I mean, Disney has definitely borrowed, maybe straight up swiped, a bunch of fairy tale themes over the years. One big theme Disney likes to play with is the classic struggle between good and evil, which, surprise, surprise, is rooted in Christian mythology. It's really just a fun way to explore our inner battles.
Yeah, when I got there, there was a woman on the top of the stairs waiting for me in a full black robe with a hood. And
did that scare you at all, or were you kind of used to that kind of imagery?
yeah, it made sense given all the things I'd been studying and pouring.
I gotta say, a woman in a black robe as a greeter, that's a choice. Was this some kind of last-minute improv initiation, or were they trying to mimic the Golden Dawn's neophyte ceremony? Either way, if a group is offering to initiate you right after a quick coffee chat, that's a major red flag. An initiation isn't like a speed date. It's a two-way street, and both sides need time to see if there's a real connection. Honestly, you're lucky that guy didn't try to take advantage of the situation.
My life into, I wasn't working at the time other than, DoorDash here and there. I was being supported by my family, so all my time went into obsessively studying these things. So it just made sense, and I was put in a room. I was also put in a black robe. I had to wear red socks, and I was told not so much to pray, but to meditate, to prepare myself for this ritual. And the ritual itself, I was hoodwinked, so I couldn't see, and it was very dark. A lot of it had to do with taking John 1:5 out of context, the idea that you're going into the darkness to shine the light of knowledge in it, the secret knowledge.
It's funny that you use the word hoodwinked. That's actually the exact term they use in a publicly available material. Hegemon rises and removes his chair from between the pillars and goes out with the sentinel, who carries the hoodwink and rope. By the way, the neophyte ritual isn't just a riff on John 1:5. Sure, there's that idea of light in the darkness, but it dives into a lot more symbolism than that.
A lot of symbolism to do with duality, darkness and light, and ancient Egyptian Hermeticism. And there was a sword put to my neck, swearing that I would never share what I learned.
So according to the publicly available material that so-called order used, and yes, I'm throwing in some serious air quotes here, the candidate makes a solemn promise, and then the flat of the sword, not the sharp edge thankfully, is placed on the back of the neck. Now, if you went through this initiation and made that promise, well, you're technically breaking it by talking about it now. No curses are coming your way, but yeah, it does mean you're kinda going back on your word. So basically, you lied during the initiation. Awkward, right?
A lot of scary, very scary. I didn't think it was scary at the time.
You thought it was sacred.
Yes.
Thought it was serious.
Yes.
This is sacred stuff, and it's serious. If she made a solemn promise, she shouldn't be turning around and breaking it now. It's kind of like if a friend confides in you with a big secret, and then you just go and spill it to the entire world on YouTube. Not exactly the best way to build trust.
And I'd also been in a sorority where there's similar like theatrics and don't tell anyone. So I remember telling one of them, like, oh, I'm not scared I went through something similar.
You told them that you were not scared you'd been through a sorority? What? That is the most bizarre thing to say. Excited? Sure. But scared? What did you think they were going to do? Slap your ass with a paddle?
Assume the position.
Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another?
But to me, again, it made sense. There was a heaviness to it, like it felt like you're saying sacred. But yeah, so I was initiated. I took a lot of pride in thinking that I was, again, special, had been called to this, and I continued.
You were using I statements. I took pride. I felt special. I felt I was called. This is you and your ego. Nothing to do with this order.
Going to the Masonic Lodge to do, to practice, to learn. And there was a time where we spent like 12-hour days for a couple of days, all just doing invocation rituals, sigils, learning Hermetic magic. And
let me get this straight. You were practicing in this Masonic Lodge, and when I asked which one, you kind of ghosted me on that detail. But then you're telling us you'd spend 12-hour days learning invocations, rituals, sigils, and Hermetic magic. That's a very unique approach. Usually, it's more of a step-by-step process where you build up gradually, letting each step sink in before moving on to the next. Trying to cram it all into a 12-hour day marathon sounds exhausting. I mean, I'd be so burnt out if I were a beginner. Talk about a recipe for failure.
I would have still said I was a Christian,
Wow.
which is amazing. I would bow down to a golden idol before entering this room. I would, these invocations of these demonic entities were...
Wait, so this Masonic lodge was just casually decorated with golden idols lying around? Or did they haul these golden idols for their magical 12-hour cram sessions? The more I hear about this order, the stranger it sounds. But hey, Jack, don't let me stop you. Keep digging that hole. It's getting more entertaining by the minute.
Bowing my face down before golden idols, and we'd take it makes me emotional, but we'd take communion, or they call it Eucharist, to Osiris, who's an Egyptian deity, with bread and wine. And I thought I was getting closer to Christ because that's what we were told.
Hey, Jack, I've got to be honest with you. It seems like Hermetic magic might not really be your thing. No judgment here, but your approach and beliefs just don't seem to align with the core principles. I'm not sure if your understanding comes from things you've heard, books you've read, or even if you've been part of an actual order. Either way, there's a bit of a disconnect here. Now, let's talk straight. Your choices, like experimenting with substances or exploring your personal attractions, are entirely yours. They're part of your journey, not something tied to magic or this order. It's important to own that. Hermetic magic isn't the cause of those struggles. It's something separate, and maybe it's just not the right fit for you right now. And that's okay. Everyone's path is different.
And I was becoming more and more depraved sexually, and in every other way. My gender, or not my gender, but my sexual identity, I got involved in sex magic.
Oh, you did, huh? You got involved. How interesting of you to do that.
Yeah, it's seen as a very powerful energy that at that point, if you hold in your mind the thing that you're trying to manifest, that moment is the most powerful moment to manifest that. Also, I was very unhealthy from the drug use and all that, so I didn't personally have a cycle, but I really wanted to, because the idea of menstrual blood is seen as powerful for releasing, and powerful blood in general, powerful for magical practices. So when I see people...
Sex magic seems like something you would have read about, along with this idea of menstrual blood being powerful. It doesn't really sound like something an established order based off the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn would teach.
Doing things like abortion rituals, or releasing, seeing it as a practice, as something magical.
Okay, now I know this is bullshit. There is no abortion ritual. A woman may have an abortion and afterwards do a ritual around the experience, but the medical procedure itself is not part of a ritual.
It makes sense with the lies that I was believing back then, which is so upsetting. But when you really get into the occult and you see like the belief system regarding blood, regarding sexual things, regarding duality and fluidity, and none of what I'm seeing in the culture is surprising.
Let's clear something up. There's a big difference between the occult and what you're trying to pin on it. First off, most Americans lean towards some form of Christian faith. That's just the cultural norm here, like it or not. The occult, on the other hand, doesn't dictate anyone's sexuality or gender identity. LGBTQ plus folks are actually welcomed in many magical paths, whether it's paganism, witchcraft, or other mystical practices. We don't see them as sinful or needing to change. Christianity, however, that's where you'll find things like repentance and gay conversion therapy being pushed. So don't try to blame the current culture wars on the occult. Mystical beliefs have been around way longer than your Bible, and ceremonial occult practices go back at least to the 15th century. These practices aren't driving our culture's growing pains. They're just part of the bigger human story. Let's stop pointing fingers and look at the bigger picture.
Talk a little bit more about that abortion ritual, because shockingly,
the collective body of the occult has no opinion on abortion. That's an individual's choice.
I saw a post by Cosmopolitan on Instagram I think last year is when we talked about it.
Cosmopolitan is not an occult periodical. I really hate it when they try and assign blame when there is none. Tell us more about this women's magazine.
That was basically talking about abortion like a satanic ritual. And yeah, we have it up right there. Satanic abortion ceremony. We've actually seen the Satanic Temple try to carve out exceptions in states that have passed pro-life legislation, carve out exceptions for religious freedom for them to say, well, it is part of our religious freedom to sacrifice basically unborn babies.
Yeah.
All right, let's clear something up because it feels like we're mixing up a salad of completely unrelated things here. I'm talking specifically to Jack and her alleged initiation into an order based on the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Not to be dramatic, but this is about Hermetic magic, not every mystical thing you've ever Googled at 2 a.m. Now, the Satanic Temple, that's a totally different beast. It's not even about magic. It's more of a political organization with a flair for theatrics. If you're dying to know what they think about abortion or literally anything else, their website is just a click away. But let's keep it straight. Hermetic magic is one thing. The Satanic Temple is another.
And so you're saying that that whole thing doesn't surprise you because they see blood as powerful.
Right.
And also, I guess, child sacrifice. So is that something you saw and experienced?
Yeah.
They are sacrificing babies at this Hermetic Temple? Hello, Silver Lake Police Department?
It was more something that I believed and saw in terms of what I was learning and more as a philosophy. I didn't get to the point where it was being practiced, but if it had started to, praise God that I was saved before then, but if it had started to, it would have made sense to me.
Oh, never mind. I thought there was a possible homicide, but it was just irresponsible language being casually thrown around by religious bigots. It was something you believed? You saw in terms of what you were learning, more as a philosophy, so it actually did not happen. So this temple is not sacrificing babies. But if they did, it would have made sense to you? What the hell were they teaching you?
Yeah, based on what I was fully believing and thought was good. I didn't think it was wrong. I thought it was good. That can be so disturbing about this is I thought it was good that you are God of your own body, and why would you let a man tell you that there's something wrong with using your own blood for magical practices, or using your body autonomously was seen as a way to conduct magic, and it was also glorified that we're going back to our pagan roots, and just this seen almost hand in hand with woman empowerment, self-empowerment, ultimately again making yourself out to be God.
I don't think there's anything bad in self-empowerment. I would actually encourage this. We should be self-reliant and empowered to be whoever we want to be, to develop and explore our true will. This means that we should know our limits and seek help when we need it. It does not mean we believe we can become actual deities, but rather our true position in the hierarchy of the natural world. In turn, to understand the responsibility we hold over the world around us, to preserve and protect the natural world for future generations. Jack Marino's story is definitely built upon some facts. How she came about gathering these facts is a good question. I believe she read the Golden Dawn book edited by Israel Regardie, or she may have known someone with this knowledge. If she was initiated into an order built around this book, then she either left out some important details, or they rushed her into initiation and skipped training in the outer order completely. The study of magic is not for everyone, especially those still tackling some forms of mental illness or struggling with drug and alcohol addiction. Initiating these types of people can be dangerous to themselves and cause serious disruption in the group setting. So for this reason alone, I believe Jack is either embellishing this, or this order was irresponsible and made a mistake bringing her in. The study and development of magic should be a gradual process to safely and confidently build upon previous exercises learned and allowing a student to develop at their own pace. Understanding symbolism, processing mythos, and digesting philosophical ideas need time. It is not a question of the student's intelligence or willingness. Jack's story is definitely well built, and much of it may indeed be true as opposed to some of the other people I have responded to in the past. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, my friends, I will see you in hell, you heathens.